Before we start, I gotta show you Rosie. Do you see her? Look at her. How are we doing today? Let me just adjust. Hi guys. Welcome. See, this is why I wanted to bring my bookshelf over, because now I get all this nice light and I have like my bookshelves behind me. It was a plan, okay? 1 second. Okay. Anyways, it has been a rough couple months of reading because school, that is the villain right now. It is stopping me from escaping and I have to deal with business. Do you know how boring business is? God! Anyways, I've been having terrible reading months. I think these were the main reading months that were really hard for me, especially March. April was a little better, but March was excruciating. For April, please don't come at me, but I only finished, I think I had 6 books on my TBR. I finished 2 of them. I'm in the middle of one right now, which is Love Wager. I probably only had like 80 pages left, but it is May 1st, so it wouldn't count for April. But yeah, please don't kill me. Upset because I wanted to read so many of those books on my TBR and it was a wonderful TBR. She's gonna jump. And it just didn't work out. I'm gonna give you guys my March and my April wrap up. We only have 9 books between March and April, so it was a little difficult. Anyways, let me stop talking and let's get into the video. You know, like, never mind. March, I only read 4 books and 1 was a reread, so we're gonna get into these very quickly. Let me bring up my Goodreads. So the first book that I decided to reread was aatar. Don't know about the series, living on a rock, but I read this series in my junior year of high school because my one friend started reading a lot and she recommended me this and was saying like it was like a Beauty and Beast retelling. And the first time I read this wasn't my favorite. I really didn't like it, and to be honest, I was gonna stop reading the series because I just did not care about it. But then she was like, no, you need to keep going, and then I did, and now Sarah J. Maas is one of my favorite authors ever. So I decided to just reread it because 19 now and gonna be 20 soon. So anyways, I'm 19 now and it's been a long time since reading this book, but I've pretty much finished all the books so far until like the new one comes out. I had such a good time, and this time I also did annotate it and I used these little circle ones. I don't know if I like them or not, but I like how, like, while rereading this, I found a lot of things I forgot, or a lot of small little details, especially with Lucien. And I'm loving Lucien a lot more than I did in the first book. The first book, I feel like I didn't even care about him. And then throughout the series, he just wasn't someone that I was like crazy in love with. But in this book, his banter and everything with Feyre was everything, and Sarah J. Maas really took that from him from all the other books. So I'm hoping that in the new books that are going to be coming out, we see more of Lucien, but that was like a big thing I saw in this book. So in all, I really liked this a lot more. But yeah, my goal this year is to finish up Sarah J. Maas, or at least reread aatar, and I want to finish Throne of Glass, and then we'll see about Crescent City and when I start that, but that is like my goal for this year. And so far I'm doing great. Well, not really, kind of. Whenever I read it, I think I gave it like a 3 stars. I'm actually gonna give this a 4 stars now, so because I really liked it a lot more. And another thing, and this is gonna be a terrible topic, but I think that Tamlin deserves a redemption arc. He's still this Tamlin. I could talk about this book all day long. Okay, so anyways, I'm hopefully gonna get into Akamoth soon. There's that one. The next 2 books were in a video when my boyfriend chooses the books I read for a week. Yeah, let's get into it. So the 2 books he chose, so the first one he chose was The High Mountain Court, and this is by A.K. Mulford. So if you don't know about this, I think this came out recently, like 2020-ish or something. There's these different witches. There's like red, brown, green, and the red ones have been kind of like swept out by this king, and he wants to get rid of all of the red witches because they're a very powerful witch. And Remy is one of like the only ones left, and there are witch hunters, and then there's Remy who are red witches, and so you can hunt red witches. So she's been in hiding with these brown witches. These 4 Fae warriors come up to Remy and they're like, we need you because we have to find like the long lost king or long lost prince from one of the places that got taken over, and if we find him then he can like save us from the king. Pretty much the gist of it. In all, with this book, I gave this 2 stars. I did not like this simply because there was one bit in the book where I was like, oh, And then that was it. And then out of nowhere, their tension just spiked up. And it wasn't even like it was a slow pace or anything. They wanted each other from the beginning, but there was nothing there, simply to put it. And so I got really bored, not only with the love, but also because all they did throughout this book was travel. And I feel like when they were trying to get the artifacts, it was these stupid little things. And it just, there was nothing that was spontaneous. I was just simply really bored. I liked the witch's idea and the witch hunters, and I feel like this could have been developed more, but it just felt predictable, especially at the ending, because when the biggest thing happened, I put it together and I was like, yeah, this is gonna happen. I'm like, oh, there we go. You guys forgave each other in like a page. So 2 stars for me. Did not like this at all, really, which is crazy because Dylan picked this because I love my fantasy and he thought I was gonna love it, and I didn't like it. The next book that Dylan did pick for me was Stephen King's The Outsider, and personally, I don't think I've ever read anything by Stephen King. I have Stephen King It, and it is on my bookshelf. I just never finished it, and I'm also too scared to start it, so that's why it's on my big bookshelf. Outsider, I don't know if you guys have heard about it either, but it's pretty much about a guy named Terry Maitland, and he's been accused for a crime of killing a little boy, and this town like has never had crime, and so he gets arrested, and everyone is like shocked because this man he's pretty much like a dad to the community, especially the kids, because he's a baseball coach and he's just an outstanding citizen. The only issue with this is like everything was put together, all this evidence was coming against him. That was pretty much it until he started saying, him and his wife, that he wasn't even in town, and then they have evidence pointing him at a whole different place, and they're like, okay, so how did he commit this crime but he was all the way across the country? It gets a little creepy with that. I really did enjoy this book. For some reason this did take me longer than all my other books. I think it's because Stephen King is a very descriptive author. I feel like this definitely could have been cut down. This was like 600, it was 500. I felt like the ending was just kind of just mid, like it wasn't what I wanted, but throughout the book, the clues that they had, the suspense of things coming together and seeing everything come together was really interesting, and I liked that process. And also like me guessing, I just really enjoyed the suspense of this and the creature in this, because this isn't like a, I guess it's like a supernatural, it's not like horror. It was very interesting, and there were times that like, especially in the reading vlog, you can see that I got like a shiver at my spine because of it, because I was like that creeped out. For this one, I gave it a 4 stars, so not bad for my first Stephen King book, because my dad and Dylan were both saying that I was going to love it, and they both were just so intrigued by it. And then the last book, I literally finished it on the 31st of March, is Icebreakers. I really enjoyed this. Really enjoyed it. It's definitely known as a spicy book, and I will say it is a spicy book. I think for half the beginning of the book, it is all that, and I think that's why I'm changing my rating, because when I did read this, I think I told you guys I'm giving it a 5 stars, and instead I changed it to a 4 stars, and simply because I don't like a lot of spice in my books. I used to be okay with it, and then there were some other things that happened in this book, like sometimes like things out of nowhere just came into the plot. I'm like, why are we adding stuff? Like sometimes the plot felt like it was all over the place, but it was still really fun, and I really enjoyed their chemistry and their banter, and they're very good at communicating. I was really scared that since this was like a spicy book, they're not going to communicate well because they just want to be friends with benefits, but in this book they communicated and they talked it out, and it was just very satisfying seeing them talk it through. And I wasn't like, guys, let's communicate like adults. So not only that, but his friends and all of their friendship together was just cute and fun, and there were times I was like literally like laughing at them because they were just so much fun. So throughout this book I did really enjoy it, and I did like it better at the end, so I think that's why it's not exactly a 5 star, and I was just really excited because it was like a new thing, and I'm glad that I really liked it. I was like rooting for them the entire time. Really liked it. If you like a spicy book, definitely try it. If not, this might not be for you, but it's still like a good book. So with that being said, was all the books that I read in March. So I think it was overall a mid-ish month, but yeah, I did really enjoy it, and I tried some new things. So anyways, we're gonna get into April now, and I think this month was a better month, but I was just really disappointed because I was so excited to get to all the books that were on my TBR, and I barely got any of them done. I'm at least halfway through my TBR from that month because I'm on the 3rd book right now, but I did get at least 2 of them done. But I want to cry because like I wanted to read them. So the first book that we finished was All In. This one I did not like as much, if I'm being completely honest. The first 2 just felt very energetic, very like I guess, suspenseful, and also there was this family aspect, and I feel like in this book, especially in the beginning, you find that everyone is going through a lot right now. Like, everyone's having their own little personal problems, and it kind of affects them in this book, and I feel like they're all pulling away from each other and like just being closed off. Also, I feel like the story was kind of like a, I feel like just Jennifer just was like, let me just put this mystery in here so we can finally get to the new book. Like, I feel like it was just here for the last book, but with that being said, things that happened, we weren't able to grieve about it, and especially a character in this book wasn't allowed to grieve, and that really ticked me off too, because it was like, oh, they're going through stuff, but we don't care. We're just gonna go on to the main character now and leave them, whatever, they're fine, they'll get over it. Let's get into this. It just felt really fast-paced, especially at the end, and I just didn't feel fulfilled, and it was kind of just nothing. It was like this the entire time. Nothing suspenseful, nothing like, oh crap, you know? But yeah, I just felt really bad for this one character because I kind of had to like push through it and have to deal with all this other stuff. And this one I just gave a 3 stars, but I did finish this really quick, so even though I didn't like it as much as the other ones, I still read this in like 3 days or something. Her books are just so easy to just sit and binge. And for me, I'm a slow reader, so binging books are really hard for me sometimes, especially with like my ADHD and my attention span. So being able to sit down and actually like want to finish it, I was like, yes. We have this one as our first one. And then in the same day, because we're listening to the audiobook, I finished Nevernight, and this is by J. Kristoff. This is the first book in the Nevernight trilogy chronicles or something. I've been trying to finish Nevernight for so long. I started it a couple years ago actually. Then I finally picked it back up. Okay, I gave this a 4.5, and the biggest reason is the storytelling. There were a lot of training bits because they were training at the Red Church, which is like the church for assassins, pretty much like the school for assassins. Those bits I feel like would have gotten me really bored if the storytelling wasn't good, and the storytelling was very fast-paced, and I feel like I was really enthralled with it and enwrapped with it, and I'm glad that I read it. Like, in the beginning and the end, it's like the narrator being like, let's sit down and let's talk about this girl and her beautiful story, and that's how it starts and that's how it ends. And I like that aspect because it's like I'm sitting down for someone to like sit down and read me a book. My heart was broken. I'm still broken because I'm waiting for something to happen, and I don't think it's gonna happen, and I'm upset. But overall, I do really like this book. I don't think if anything bugged me. The only thing that bugged me is this book, like I was saying, was really quick in audio, but I feel like if I was reading this would take me forever, because not only are the words really small, but he has these asterisks that sometimes you have to go to the bottom, like right over here, and you have to read all this extra. And I feel like if you're gonna do that, don't do it too much, because then it takes away from the story, and then you have to do like a history book. And if you are gonna do that, maybe put it in the story so then you're not pausing the reader. And I feel like sometimes that happened when I was in the car and I'd kind of space out and I'd be like, where am I? The next book we read was Wildfire by Hannah Grace, and this one was a 5-star for me actually, so yay! I was gonna give it a 6-star, but then I was like, it's not exactly a 6-star. Like, I want it to be a 6-star, but it just wasn't, and I'm not sure why, but it just wasn't for me. This is the second book in the Maple Hill series. This came out last year in October, I believe. But as soon as I finished Icebreaker, or no, even when I was halfway done Icebreaker, I was like, I need the second book because I'm so crazy in love with these characters right now. I just want more. This one was my favorite because of these summer aspects. Pretty much these two go to be camp counselors, and they know each other from a one-night stand, but then they don't know that they're both going to work together. And the aspects of them in the summer camp and doing all these summer fun date ideas with one another, and the ending got me with everything about her, and her talking about bookstores and everything just was so cute, and I loved that aspect so much, especially with like the summer vibe. There were some times that Ross kind of bugged me, and I was like, please communicate, but also it was kind of like a thing like you didn't want to be left alone type thing. But overall, I really enjoyed this book. I also loved the new characters we saw, and I want to see those new characters get books as well, or I want them to be like brought into the campus somehow, because I definitely want books for them. So yeah, and once again, their banter as friends and their banter just together, and the flirting and everything was so cute. So this one is also a spicy book, but it's not as much. I think this one has like 13 chapters or something of it. This one probably only had like 6, 8, something like that. I don't know. I know you can find those things where it tells you like the spicy chapters online, but I know this one's like not as much. So, which I liked about this aspect. This is definitely why it's a 5-star, because it's not as too much and it's not overbearing. Next book, the last 2 books are going to be off of my TBR. So we got through somehow, okay? So the first book that I read was Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren, and this one, everyone was telling me I was going to love it because it was Every Summer After, but better. And I disagree. I did not like this at all. First off, it's talked to be a summer romance, but I do not remember one aspect of them doing anything summery. I feel like a lot of the times they were just in the room reading. That was it. There would be like, oh, this is June, but they're in the room just reading. And I think there was mostly more winter months of them celebrating Christmas or Thanksgiving and stuff. Along with that, I feel like I saw none of the chemistry because when they were younger, all they would do was read books and would talk about sex or something like that. And then we would go back to the present and then we'd go back to the past, and then it was like 2 years after that, and then the breaks were too long that it didn't allow me to bring that chemistry. I wanted to see more of them as a kids, and I wanted to see them blossom into their love, because coming to the present I didn't see that at all. Other than that, the ending killed me. Literally ruined the entire book with me. This isn't a reading vlog that will be coming out after this video probably, so I'm sorry for spoiling it. Maybe we'll do that video before so you guys don't get spoiled. We'll do that because of things that happened to Elliot and how the authors talked to him. I hated the way that they talked about him, and it wasn't okay, because if it was flopped around, it would be a whole different conversation. That really just hurt me because there wasn't that double standard, I guess. And then also, this could have all been avoided if it was communicated. If whatever just happened was communicated in some way. I understand what happened at the end would literally kill everyone if that happened to them. But if you would just communicate, you would not have this book. Simple as that. I wish I could go into talking about it, but that's that. And along with that, I feel like this is the first time I'm ever gonna say the chapters were too short, because if you're gonna have the past and the present that constantly, you've gotta give me more. Got me like 4 pages of the past, and then we're in the present for another 4 pages, and there's like nothing that's showing their chemistry. In all, I gave this book a 2 stars. I feel like I would go lower, but I'm too scared to, because I feel like people are gonna come to my house and murder me, because I know that too many people like this book. Once again, like I always say, some books might work for you, but some might not work for me, and this is one of them. I need to stop talking. Anyways, this is 2 stars and I did not like it, so there's that one. And then the final book that I have been wanting to read for so flipping long is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Loved this. Loved it. I loved it, but I also hated it in a good way, you know? Because I think that anyone that comes up with this type of book idea needs to be in an asylum. Because why do you like hurting people? There's a sticker on this, I forgot to take that off. You know, like, I felt like in the ending we got hit with something and then stabbed in the neck, and then my heart was ripped out, and then I was buried alive. Literally, what is your problem? Who hurt you? I loved this book so much. This was a fantasy that I felt did not take light years to finish. When I read fantasy, for some reason with me, it takes me a lot longer. I mean, the books are longer, but also it just feels like there's these slow periods and I get bored and yada yada yada. I did not get bored once in this book. I was so into it. And the quotes from Kai, I was bawling my eyes over, like turning red at my restaurant because I'm reading it on my phone type vibe. I loved this book so much. The only things that I would say, 2 things, is 1, Lauren Roberts likes to repeat herself with a couple things. I wrote it down, but the things that I can remember are Kit's eyes reminding her, Peyton, of the king's eyes. That was mentioned too many times. I was going to rip my own eyes out and give them to Kit. The second one was about the boys taking their shirts off, and I was like, okay, we get it. The third one was her saying ordinary and powerless. Sorry, this is so aggressive. And then the other one I just had at the top of my head, oh, was her and Kai like joking around that he was a gentleman. It was too much and it was getting too cheesy. That was the only part that really bugged me. She did a lot of repetition with her words, and I was like, we need to find other words because it's slowing it down for me. It's making me annoyed. At first, before I finished, like got to the ending, I was gonna actually give it like a 4.5, 4.75 because of the writing, because it just felt like it was a lot of repetition on some words, and I was like, we can find better things. And you can repeat yourself a couple of times, but when you start doing it like more than 10 times, it gets very annoying. That got me sometimes, and I had to like sit down and like stop the book, and I'm like, please do not say this word again. It was so frustrating. I really enjoyed this book, and you need to read this book. I think Powerful just came out and I want to read it, but I'm scared I'm gonna throw up and die. I don't know if you guys follow me on Goodreads. I know Kendall saw it, but I finished this book. I rated it at 5 stars, and I was like, I feel like I'm gonna throw up, and she's like, my thoughts exactly. And I was like, I hate throwing up. So like, me to say that was crazy. But yeah, I loved this book, and I like, as soon as I finished this, I went into the 3rd book of my TBR, and then I like couldn't get into it because I was stuck on this book, and I had to go to bed thinking about this book because I just couldn't get it out of my head, because I was so heartbroken at the end with everything that had happened. I did not know how to feel, because in the beginning it was so beautiful and lovely, and at the end that all of that was gone, and I was just like, oh. And it is supposed to be 2 other books. It's supposed to be a trilogy, so there's that. And that was the last book that I read for April, which brings us to 5 books read in April. So we had 2 5 stars in April, and I feel like I give away, where did the lighting just go? Oh my goodness. All right. No, I feel like I sometimes give out 5 stars really easily, and then I'll change my mind, like I did with like Icebreakers and Wildfire. But other times, like with 5 stars, they're really hard for me to give out. I don't know. I feel like I'm weird about ratings. I feel like I can't rate books right now because like I don't know what to rate them, and I just like want to finish a book, say how I like it, and then move on. Like I don't want to have to rate it, you know? So in all, those were the 9 books that I finished in 2 months. And yeah, it was a rough month, but I still really enjoyed everything that I read. I'm hoping that with school being out, I'll be able to read much more. In all, I feel like these months were a very difficult months to get through, and I'm hoping that they get better. I will let you guys know how that goes, but thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I think this video is going to be coming after that reading vlog is out, because I don't want to spoil the reviews and then like you guys not want to watch that video. So I think we'll do that. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please go like and hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you know every single time I post, and I will see you guys in my next video.